it is time, so let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. Welcome, everybody. Let's go.
Well, right out of the gate last week, I'm glad I put this into the video on show number 2, was Michael's question about the ancestors. And I'd never heard that term, the ancestors. I'm not, I just wasn't familiar with it at all. But this week, I was watching something else out on Badlands, and I remembered watching a story hour. If anybody is familiar with the Badlands Story Hour, they take a movie and they talk about it in relation to what's going on right now, a kind of a Q movement type slant on things. So they took the movie Tenet, Tenet, and you notice it, that's there's a word for that type of word, where it's spelled the same both ways. Anybody know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so Tenet, the movie Tenet, and out there on the community page posts, I put 4 screenshots from the movie that pretty much tell what this film is about. And it says, it's got these chaps saying they're running a temporal pincer movement. Half his team moves forward through the event. He monitors them and then attacks at the end, moving backwards, knowing everything. So when I thought about that, and I thought about the story I've been given about them going to a new beginning timeline when they go to the New West, it just, and a couple other things had your question for one. There were about 3 things that were pointing me in this direction all at the same time. And so this is a theory, of course. I don't have anything real solid for a confirmation, but here's this idea just we can talk about. Those people going to the New West, they're going so far back in time that it's before the Sirius initiatory realm was even inhabited. So we know it had been inhabited in the past because, or at least, in my story, we know that, because the reptilian invaders who came here had originally been from the Orion star system, but they, through war and whatever else these horrible creatures do, they pretty much destroyed their home planet. So a group broke away. And according to Juan, that group was about 300. And they went to Sirius, the Sirius star system. And so that became like their new home. And at some point, they, for whatever reason, they decided to leave there and come to this initiatory realm, Earth. And that's when they invaded here, knowing that their ship would be disabled when they came in. And that means a lot. It means they're going to have to, at some point, reanimate their race to build out a real space program here. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But so you've got this New West civilization in this way, way, way back beginning timeline before the Syrians invaded it. So it makes you wonder a lot of things, but we'll go right to the idea of this ancestors. what if the intergalactic fleets that have been called in by King Yeshua for the rapture events as like loading bays for all these people that are going to travel in this Stargate? What if all the beings in those fleets are those same people that are going to the New West right now in the future, which is now? So could could that be what the ancestors mean? The intergalactic fleets, all the beings that are here, are actually saving themselves. They're the ancestors of the people who are going to the New West.
There are avatars.
Avatars?
They are avatars. Then basically, our ancestors are our avatars,
Oh, like in the movie Avatar?
like the movie The Avatar. Yeah.
Why don't you explain that for everybody, Michael?
Well, basically, if our brains are quantum computers, and then we built a quantum computer, and then we can download our brainwaves into a quantum computer. Obviously, the people, like whoever it was that developed the CIA or whatever developed the quantum computers were probably communicating with other beings in the quantum realm somehow. So they figured out how to download our consciousness into a quantum computer. And the space race isn't really about outer space; it's about cyberspace. So, that's where the battle is in cyberspace, is what my understanding is. And so they can take our avatar, just like in the movie Avatar, and fight battles in cyberspace. I
Okay,
mean, that's a gist of kind of what I've
sure.
got. I don't know if I'm right on it or not, but
Well, it's an interesting idea for sure. And it's, in my mind, it logically describes what these ancestors that's out there, I'm sure it's out there in the truth movement somewhere. It's just never come in front of me until you said it last week. Um, that seems like a very logical. I'd had like hints of that idea before, but because I didn't have anything to like give it any weight, I would
yeah.
just back off of it and keep going. So now that I've had these three things come up, just kind of bam, 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 all through the week after your question being one of them.
Yeah.
Um, that idea seems like a logical idea that the people going to the New West are going so far back in time that it's before the invasion. Now, that brings up another thing. That would mean that Earth never got invaded. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I mean, you could go a million different ways with this.
The mind bender for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a mind bender that was worth tossing out there. Anybody else have any ideas on this idea of the ancestors?
I wanted to say something about
Hey, Rob.
hey, how you doing, guys?
Great.
Nancy and Jetson and everybody. Who was just speaking? Was that Mark?
Michael.
Mike.
Michael. You mentioned something about cyberspace.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Space Force being more about cyberspace than it is about outer space?
Yes.
Yeah, because if you look at the logo, I noticed the logo looks like a mouse cursor. Some people will say, "Oh, it looks like Star Trek," but I see it like a mouse cursor almost,
Yeah.
which would pertain to cyberspace.
Mhm.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted to throw that out there.
Cool.
Yeah, because if we live in a simulation and then source energy is we live in a big computer, it makes
Yeah.
sense, that we're all just part of a cog in a big computer, just like our video games we play today.
Yeah, and have you seen the when they show an image of a compute the insides of a computer, like the circuitry, it looks like a city.
Yeah, like
Like the
Teotihuacan.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I think the Giza complex is, just a big monument motherboard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
yeah.
no
exactly.
temples there. There's no temples. Those are accelerator cards.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
weren't they weren't tombs of the pharaohs. Those were
No, no.
energy generating machines. Yeah.
Right. But this idea of simulation, I'm not on board with that. I can't, because of my I guess it has to do with my Christianity. I can't justify that we're in a simulation. I can't justify that all this is just, ones and zeros, or actually inside qubits inside a quantum
Right. Yeah.
computer.
Right. Yeah.
So, but uh, my story is my story, and some people resonate with it and some people don't. But I've got my boundaries with it. The simulation thing is an edge too far, maybe for me to get
Too
out of.
far down the rabbit hole still.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
Can I
but
can I can I piggyback off what you said about the information you were given? Because
yes,
in your video, I love your story about the blue kachina and how you were given the information and you asked God, and then the next day that video popped up in your feed. And I know a couple weeks ago, Way had mentioned Mr. BB's channel, and just not too long after that, he showed some videos. I think it might have been the next day or the day after the meeting a couple weeks ago. He showed people are sending in video of what they're calling a second moon, or it basically people are seeing another planetary body in the sky. In one of the videos, it looks so eerily similar to the picture of the blue kachina that you showed. And I didn't know if anybody had caught that video by Mr. B333. But there people are spotting another planetary body inside the dome. I do believe we're in a dome.
Yeah. Me too.
I mean, at nighttime you can see the curvature. During the day you can't really see the curvature, but at night I can see some sort of curvature of the stars, right?
right.
Um, it definitely looks like it's curved off. But anyways, people are spotting another planetary body, and it looks so eerily similar to the blue Kachina picture that we've shown.
Okay.
And I didn't know if anybody else had saw that. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Wrote a note down. I'll check it out after the show.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. Well, anyone else? Oh, you had a hand up, Diane.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. And I
Hi.
apologize for being a couple minutes late. Of course, my phone
Oh,
decided
well,
to.
well,
Technology.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll keep it on the scoreboard somewhere. I'll try to make up next time. I'm teasing. It's interesting, though, that I came in on the conversation where I did because I appreciate everybody's input here. And as far as the simulation goes, it's funny because I have a very strong Christian background as well, and I want to make sure not to step outside of that. Because we are warned that not that you're deceptive or deliberately deceptive or anything like that, but that certain ideas can be deceptive as well as whatever. But again, if we have to go back to if we're praying for discernment and then we're, you know, putting it before God and things come along and we're testing it with God, I trust God to be able to say to me, no, this is not, or this is not entirely correct. However, that idea has been encroaching a little. And I think that whole business with the Truman Show, if anybody knows the background behind that, where, and that's a different way to kind of look at a simulation. I kind of think it's more along the line of the Truman Show kind of thing. You talk about an initiatory realm. And when you think about that, then it is kind of a controlled environment. I've never watched the movie all the way through, and one of these days I've got to do that. But I've seen long enough parts of it, and I've certainly seen the ending. And it's funny how who we view as kind of the authority, that's trying to keep him where he is at the end, seems to have a great deal of compassion for the fact that he's going to move on to greater knowledge. It was not lost on me that it's almost like someone was trying to portray maybe the way God is proud of us when we have, basically, we show some faith and what have you. I would like to think we're not zeros and ones too, and I get that entire, idea. But I do think somewhere along the line, there's something in both pieces of that we don't yet know and maybe are not yet prepared because we can't understand it. So it would be frightening. Having said that, I was going to ask today, and so that's interesting, Mike and Rob, you brought up Mr. MBB. He also has been talking about people seeing the sun pulsing, and sometime within the last week or so, or
Wow.
last couple of weeks. Yeah, the sun
Cool.
pulsing. Yeah, and they got one of his followers sent a picture, and you can definitely see it better in his video than you can. And these are people off the street. You can tell it's not AI or anything else, because it's just regular hacks like all the rest of us. And with his phone, you could definitely see that the sun was pulsing. Oh, sorry. That's
Hey,
the that's Tux. Tux likes to get in on the conversation. At any rate, but in addition, he's been following since November, and I saw it a little before that in my area, but I didn't think too much of it. But since November of last year, there have been a number of people, and now it's in the thousands. He has over 300 some that have been sent to him all over the world, but particularly here in the United States, of lights, outdoor lights, and some people have had indoor lights behave the same way, that are flashing. Regarding the 144,000 star seeds being potentially murdered infants, and because they are potentially the Jewish murdered infants. It did a Google search, and I didn't expect to find much because of Google, but it is my only option right now. And it took me to something called the Massacre of the Innocents. According to Boccaccio, Boccaccio, the 144,000 murdered children were the ones spoken of in the end times. And they were the murdered innocent, and they were the ones that would be coming back and judging. Okay. Now, who is Boccaccio? The best I could find out is that he probably owned, or was a master who owned a workshop that did the illuminated manuscripts. And those are the real pretty Bible pictures and what have you, with all the, fancy edges with, the gold and everything else, in the Italian style from 1390 to 1430.
you've been very busy, and thank you for that validation.
3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, thanks a lot, Nancy and
Oh,
Jetson.
no, you were loving it. You were loving it, and you know it.
Yes, you
Absolutely.
were.
I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah,
Now-
it was definitely a
Now,
moment.
something came up at the beginning of our conversation, Diane, that I'd like to pull
Sure.
out. On the very first show, the first one we recorded anyway,
Yeah.
Rob brought up the question about being able to discern when there's so much information out there, and how do you discern,
Yeah.
for Christians, how do you discern, should I listen to this channeled message?
Right.
Things like that, because there's just so much, so many varied ways that people are bringing information in.
Right.
And I never, actually, I sent you my email, Rob, and in the chat. I don't know if you grabbed it, but I didn't hear back from you. So if you'd like to chit chat about that right now, chit chat, that sounds like diamond. If you'd
Yeah,
like,
we can.
I have to be honest with you. I didn't know where to start with the email.
sure.
Like it's I didn't know where to start. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
Makes sense.
I wouldn't mind bringing it up. I mean, obviously, I'd love to hear your input.
Mhm. Well, really, it's very simple for me. It's like I always say I used to say in all my videos, and when I say, before I used to be on screen, I was always, you had to read all my videos. And back when you were reading them, I would always say that if this information does not resonate with you, then it just means that it's not for you. So just, take it with a grain of salt, or just move on. Don't even watch it. So I think that word resonate is the key for me. If you're in touch with your emotions, which the way things are right now, we pretty much have to be in touch with our emotions, because everything around us is trying to trigger us into having big anger moments, big emotions. And so in order to kind of stay neutral, we've got to monitor our emotions and our thoughts, because our thoughts actually is what generates our emotions. So that resonate thing is really the blanket answer. If you're listening to a channeler and they're saying things, it's like maybe you don't resonate with everything they say, but there's certain parts of it that you do resonate with. I would say as long as you are feeling good about the message, that it's fine, it's not a sin or anything. God's not going to say, okay, that's new age and he shouldn't be doing that.
I get what you're saying about things resonating a lot, and the the pastor that I would listen to, Derek Prince, a lot of the stuff he references resonates with me. But when he spoke about the New Age and witchcraft and curses and demons, I have to say it resonated, but at the same time, it made me fearful. And I don't like feeling fearful, right? I felt like I was doing something wrong, that I was a sinner, that I maybe have a generational curse, um, and or being haunted in some way by demons or spirits. And like he was making me, listening to his sermons made me feel like, is something wrong with me? Am I being haunted in some way? It made me feel like a sinner, and like maybe want to get rid of things I had in my household. Now looking back, it made me fearful, and that doesn't resonate with me, right? Because some of the channel stuff I've heard channeled like makes me feel uplifted, makes me feel hopeful, and this is how I want to feel. But as much respect as I have for this gentleman, Derek Prince, who's no longer with us, um, I don't like being made full of fear, and or like I'm doing something wrong, or I'm some kind of like really bad sinner or something, you know.
Couple of points. First of all, Derek Prince, in case everyone's not familiar, he is I think he was really popular in the late 60s, into the 70s, and his main topic is spiritual warfare. And
Yeah,
so he's always, talking about casting out demons and things like that. The thing is the church, the Christians do not know how to engage in spiritual warfare. No one's ever taught them. Many of his books I've read when I was writing my books about spiritual warfare, because I thought he would be a good resource. But I found every book I read, no matter who, even Derek's, they're so general. They don't get into the specifics of what you actually do to put the armor on, to, make sure you're ready with your sword. They don't get into the specifics enough. It's just kind of a general, um, um, unhelpful, really. And it opens you up to be fearful, in my opinion,
yeah,
because you don't, unless you've, this is me talking, right? My opinion. Unless you've read our first book of Everyday Warfare, a how-to training manual for God's Army, I wouldn't go anywhere near trying to deal with casting out devils or anything, because they will attack you. They know it's like a horse will throw you if you don't know how to ride. The devils will attack you when you start trying to attack them. It's you attack them, they're going to attack back, and you got to know how to handle them. You got to have your armor on 24/7, or you will be in fear.
Well, and spiritual warfare is probably the very worst place to try to participate if you're not 100% on board and 100% know what you're doing. You've got to know it. in order to do it,
Right.
or they're gonna get you.
You know, it's a funny thing because I read the same book. A friend of mine shared it with me, and what is it? The spiritual warfare book, the one I think that that was the only one that I read. I found it
Derek's
helpful.
Derek's books, Diane.
Yeah,
Derek's book.
Derek's book, Spiritual Warfare. I think that I don't remember the exact title of the one that I read, but that was the one. And indeed, but God says, and everywhere throughout, that He's not a spirit of fear. So, but to be enlightened is another thing. So I think everything you look at, you have to start with, okay, God, if this is not of you, if like you said, this is not for me, maybe this is, not something you need me to deal with right now, or if it is, you let me know.
I say the church has no idea what it's doing. I'll leave it there.
Exactly.
I agree.
Okay, so now Nancy's got an intro for this next thing we're going to talk about.
Yes, we have a viewer in Ireland who would love to be with us for our Q&A on Thursday nights, but because of the time difference, it's like impossible for him to join us. So we gave him an invitation to send in a question or two here and there. And I told him we would take it up with the group and he can then participate by watching the video afterwards. So he sent us an email today with some very interesting questions on it. And Jetson's going to talk to those now.
Right. So he had some questions about the New West. He says, where do the 7 to 8 billion live? So the answer to that is that, and I've got it written out here just so it'll be fast and I won't be stumbling around, trying to recreate the wheel here. New West citizens will be involved in the design and construction of their homes and their businesses. And I had to think about each one of these. I'd never been asked any of these questions that he asked. So I had to think about it, and think, okay, well, knowing what I know, what's the most logical, answer here? So I realized at that point that there won't be much need, unless you've got a big corporation that needs a lot of employees, like if you're manufacturing automobiles or something. But most people are going to have their own businesses, just as if you were in the barter system prior. This guy over here, he traps all the time, so he's got furs. This guy over here, he kills a whale, he's got blubber. So it's like they trade out. It's not that they won't have money, because they will, but I think most people will own and run their own businesses and have the smallest amount of employees necessary. All right, so let's say 4 years training, they're in their 4 years training. During that 4 years, they're going to be designing their home. They're going to be thinking, what business do I want to go into? They're going to be designing their business. What is it, how big building do we need? Blah, 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 which will greatly accelerate this aspect of the timeline build out. In other words, getting out of the ships will be greatly accelerated, because by the time they come out, they already know exactly what they're going to be doing. And then by the time their training is over, all will have their designs ready, and they'll just keep living aboard the ships until their homes and businesses are ready. Then his next question follows right along there. Will we work? And this goes back to what I just said. At first, everyone will be focused on building their own homes and businesses. That'll be their work. But then, and then a large segment will help the government prepare the infrastructure after they get everything built out, so that they know where to put water and everything that's going to be needed.
Yeah.
Roads.
Roads, exactly. where we're going.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
Floating cars, who knows, right?
who knows? 'Cause I'm sure they will have electrogravitic technology because Tesla's going to be there, guys.
Yeah. Well, our railways will be super fast. They already have that today. So,
Yeah, the monorail like things that
yeah.
levitate above the track.
Yeah, and I think that's an exciting point for our viewer because he works for the railroad in our.
Oh yeah, our friend Colin works for the railroad.
Oh, geez.
Okay, so then once the infrastructure and the homes and businesses are ready, the people will be running their own business. All right. So he then asked, will we still live with our current partners? And he's talking about like wives and husbands and things. And the answer is you will be aware of who your partner is, and together you can choose whether to stay together as a couple or not. And those with children will be encouraged during the training to stay together. And I would think they would want to anyway, because these people are going to be very pure-hearted, very good-hearted people because they don't have all the evil influences there that we have here.
And since everybody will be getting that during the 3-day journey, that's going to leave everybody on a perfectly level playing field in terms of adapting and starting their new lives in the New West.
Absolutely.
And
Okay, we've got Wei. Hey, Wei, how are you?
Hi. Hi, thank you. As for 7 billion, I never felt the Earth has 7 billion.
You
I
think
like
they're-
to doubt
What?
with my pendulum. It always give me like 3 something.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I know my mentor Dolores Cannon talk about backdrop people.
What kind?
Backdrop.
Okay.
You know, in the movie, you have main characters, and then you have the ones in the background.
Mhm.
But other people call it non-player.
Yeah, NPC, right.
Right.
Same
So,
character. Yeah.
so I don't know 7 billion include them or all the people with souls. Another thing is you mentioned we're going to Series B, right?
I didn't
Why?
say Sirius B. I just said the Sirius star system. There's
Oh,
a
okay.
budgetary
Okay.
realm there.
Okay. Why do we go there?
Why?
Yeah, what
Because-
make you think we're going there?
Because I've been told that the very first star that called out to me was Sirius,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it got my attention, and
Yeah.
it told me keep tracking me,
Yeah.
and
I
I
know.
did.
Yeah, in the movies, in the entertainment industry, they always kind of give us a glimpse of here and there something. You know, in the Harry Potter movie, Harry Potter's godfather is name is Sirius Black.
Okay.
So anyway,
And in the Truman Show, the one light that falls on his street when he picks it up, it says Sirius.
wow. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And another thing is I'm so fascinated by your LBT observations.
Cool.
And in fact, last week I've been thinking about asking you questions about that. But then you posted this flashing sun. And also I went back to review your previous shows on this. There's nine videos in that series about our sun and our system, right? So you mentioned the original sun, nobody alive have seen it. So that's long gone, right?
It's the 60s, since the early 60s.
So that original, so if I were born before the 60, I have seen it?
No, because it was hidden. It was back behind a kind of like a Burger King grill.
Okay. I didn't
So it was
understand that.
fire. It was fire. That's why
Okay.
people got sunburned.
Right.
There was a grill of fire over that amplified crystal that was the sun, that was the sun at that time. And because the sun wasn't affected by all the horrible programming and polarized magnetics and everything that they did to this system, it was able to ascend in the ascension window. Everybody, the human race was supposed to ascend at that time. And that's why the hippie movement started. That's
Oh,
why you had this huge shift from the 50s to the 60s where, crew cuts to hair down to your bottom, it's
mhm,
like,
mhm.
and then peace and love. It all started out very, very innocent and pure, as
Yeah.
most people can, who were.
But most of them nowadays are kind of still asleep, in my opinion.
Oh, well,
A lot of this
they
hippie generation.
well, when they saw that, when they got their ascension timeline denied to them, which they didn't know that's what was happening, but that's what happened. They were denied their human ascension timeline. Then they went just back to normies because they had no hope.
Mm, mm.
Their hope was
Some,
Kent State was huge in taking hope away from the young people. Kent State, when they killed those 4 students
mhm.
on campus who were just protesting and they shot them.
Things like that broke people, like the JFK. Look what's happening in the news right now. The JFK assassination broke people as well, broke their mental status.
Exactly.
And Jetson,
Yes.
the LBT, the Large Binoculars Telescope,
Yeah.
is it looking through the dome outside into outside?
No.
What is it taking picture of?
Well, first of all, it's the most powerful telescope in the
Right.
world. It's actually putting a mirror, this incredible mirror out there. And that mirror, they're shooting this big mirror, but the telescope is pulling in images from the orrery.
Oh,
And
so it's
that's
not the real world outside of the dome. It's
right,
shooting the orrery pictures.
right. And
Okay.
there's this particular area called the Sun Gate, and that is where ships can come in to this system. It's the only way to get in. And the ships that are coming in are the fleets that have been invited, that King Yeshua has sent out the invitation for. So they're being allowed in without disabling their craft. But if you try to come in like the reptilians did, your craft will be disabled. And that's why that thing up there in the sky that we call the moon is a junked spacecraft, because they can't, once they got in here, they could not get out.
So
Yeah.
so what we are seeing actual uh stuff moving on the orrery, but it reflect what is real outside of the dome, right? Is it
Right.
accurate? Is it accurate? Because all of
Yes.
these astrologers, all the people who study astrology predicting this and that, is it still accurate?
Right. And yes, it's just like a planetarium. Our dome, our orrery stars
Mhm.
are an exact replica of what's outside the dome for real.
Okay. The sun gate is where the ones who are going will go through. Is that right?
We'll go through
Uh-huh.
they'll go out the sun gate
Okay.
inside the stargate.
Yeah. Um,
And
The
you're the
black
one
hole
that
sun.
you're the one had this sun gate name initially.
right.
You said it came to you.
Yes.
So is it burning hot?
Um, I I don't know. It sure looks like it based on the images I put out the other day. They always have this kind of energy coming from right behind that kind of donut right in the middle, that black
Right.
donut.
Right.
So I don't know if it's hot. I mean, a Stargate probably can't be affected by heat at all, though, because a Stargate is 2 angels that come together as like this heavenly technology, and fire could not hurt them.
Very fascinating.
Well,
I
thank
like to
you.
know more about that.
Cool.
I need to watch. I've been watching the series over and over again, but
Cool.
I can't remember everything.
Right.
I understand at the moment when I watch it, but then afterwards, I'm thinking back. I ask myself a lot of questions, and then I have questions.
Yeah, the first time I heard about the blue Kachina was when I was reading the Hopi prophecy. The Hopis, if you read their prophecies, they all fall in line to today.
Right. I don't resonate with all of the prophecy, but there are certain little parts of it that I do. So
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I found the redstone tablet of the Hopi prophecy and I delivered it to him
Uh-huh.
8 years ago.
Oh, is this the artifacts you're talking about?
Yeah, the artifact. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I've been in communication out on the community page with Michael, and he's mentioned that he has found some artifacts that just tell us a bit about that, Michael, please.
Okay. Yeah. So my friend and I, we hunt in Montana on the Fort Peck Reservoir. So, and you have to take, it's a 2 hour gravel road to get there, and you take a boat to go across to hunt this area. So like no one goes up, no one walks it unless you're a hunter. And so no one, so anyways, the second year we were hunting there, I just noticed all this mica glass all over the ground, and I was just thought it was kind of strange. And then, so I told my friend, I'm like, next year when I'm here, when we're, during the day when we're not hunting, I'm going to look around for some artifacts. I just had a feeling I was going to find some artifacts.
Wow.
I found the Hopi Indian called it a gourd, like the rattles or whatever, the gourds, but it was like it feels like steel, it's made of some kind of metal, and it had like a little, like looked like an orange with a top bottom, kind of like you could spin it like on a top.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I brought these, and I found the redstone tablet that was in the prophecy that they've been waiting for their lost white brother with a redstone tablet to show up with it,
Wow.
And so I didn't know what these were when I found them, right? So I just collected all these and I brought them home and I just had them on my counter. Stone tablet has it looks like ancient writing on one half of it, like cuneiform type,
Right.
but not quite cuneiform, and different than cuneiform. And then on one half of it was like a light tan, smooth surface, and it had a little, and on this tan side, it had a little eye with an eyeball in it, just a little eyeball in it. And then I was closer looking at it, it had like a headdress around the outside of it, like an Indian headdress. And I'm like, in my mind at the time, I'm like, oh, this kind of looks like some Hopi cave art I've seen before, and so that's what jogged my mind to go look. And then that brought me to the whole Hopi prophecy and all that, for the redstone tablet. But at the time, there was something pulling me because it said in the prophecy that I had to deliver the tablet or some bad things could happen to humanity if I didn't take it there. Mm-hmm. So this is right in the beginning, right when I first was connected. So I'm like, so I just was like, I'm like, I don't know where I'm going or who I'm going to talk to. It's a 16-hour drive, and so this is where faith gets in, right? So I just like, well, it says I got to do it. So I'm just going to go, and I guess whoever I talk to is the right person I'm supposed to talk to. And so I'm pulling in, there's a lady pulls in behind me, and I kind of get out and I go back to her. I'm like, where's one of the elders here I could talk to? And she's like, well, try that first house there.
Wow.
So I get to the house or whatever, and I'm knocking on the door, and this guy Ivan is there, the Hopi, and I go, I think I got something you guys have been waiting, for, right? And there was another piece that I left in Montana, so I set it on the table, and he goes, where did you get that? Not like, what is this? He already knew what it was. He knew, and so I was like, I go, Montana. And he's like, Montana. And then I didn't tell him about the other piece that I left, right? Because I saw it in the prophecy that I was reading that there was two pieces. So I didn't tell him that. I left that out because I was trying to make sure that they knew, that that I wasn't being played or whatever, right? So I kind of left a piece out kind of thing. Then his brother comes in and he points, and Ivan points to his brother. He goes, look what he brought. And then his brother taps the table. Where's the other piece? I mean, I saw weird stuff on that tablet before I brought it there because I was looking under it through black lights, and with my frequency at the time, I could see all kinds of weird stuff on there.
Wow. Well, you're going to keep us posted, right, on how this all ends out?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, great.
For sure.
Yeah. Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yes.
So, it was pretty intense. So
cool. Thanks, Michael.
But yeah.
Well, we've gone quite a bit past our time, but what a great story and what a great bunch of questions and conversations this evening. And it's really wonderful to see everyone. So we'll look for you again next Thursday.
Sounds good.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.